So apparently the Chinese went and challenged a US Navy ship. Ah, dear. I know this is going to go bad. Oh, I seem to be getting a phone call. Hello. Okay. I'll let them know. That was Mr. YouTube there. He says 68% of people who watch this channel aren't yet subbed. Could today be the day? Probably not. But if you are not subbed yet, ladies and gentlemen, it would make... You know what? It would make my day. If you could take one little second to click that subscribe button and become part of the tubers community. That'd be great. Maybe like the video while you're there with that beautiful thumb of yours. Okay, let's do this.
At 09:23 hours on June 14th.
I mean, if you're going to attack anything, why's it got to be a sorry, Mom? We're just fucking waking up.
23 hours on June 14th, 2025. The USS Princeton was conducting another routine freedom of navigation patrol in the South China Sea when her spy radar painted something that would nearly start World War III. A Chinese-type O-52D destroyer that had been loitering at 200 kilometers just as she suddenly accelerated from 18 to 30 knots in under 90 seconds. Unknown to the Americans, the
Let's say that this Chinese ship approached the US Navy ship and attacked it. What would happen after that? Like, what sort of, like, would that start a war? Like, there and then that one thing, boom, war. That's
captain had just received orders from Beijing. Intercept the Americans and make them blink first. But Beijing was about to learn why challenging the U.S. Navy in open water remains a spectacularly stupid idea. The Nimitz Carrier Strike Group, you see here, had been doing what American sailors have done best for 75 years, keeping the world's most important sea lanes open so Chinese factories could sell their cheap electronics to Best Buy. They were 180 nautical miles from the nearest Chinese territory in international waters, where $3.4 trillion in annual trade flows like clockwork. The strike group's mission was textbook freedom of navigation, predictable course, transparent.
So this is actually in international waters. It's not owned by the Chinese government or anything like that. It's open waters. 3.4 trillion. I don't even know how many numbers that is. How many zeros is that? Like fucking 48?
Intentions and the kind of professional conduct that separates real navies from floating militia. At 09:26, the target classification was complete. The radar operators had positively identified a Type O-52D destroyer of the Chinese Navy with a threat assessment of moderate to high. Inside the Princeton's Combat Information Center, the tactical action officer watched the Chinese destroyer's vector with the calm that comes from having 122 vertical launch cells loaded with enough firepower to turn any Chinese ship into fish food. The spy radar, the world's most advanced naval sensor, painted a picture so clear you could point out every detail of the enemy ship.
Damn.
At the Chinese destroyer's current speed, he'd reach weapons engagement range in exactly 17 minutes. The map was simple but terrifying for the Chinese. Her YJ-18 anti-ship missiles could cover the remaining distance in under 4 minutes once launched, but the Princeton's SM-6s in surface mode could reach about 240 nautical miles and swat them like flies.
Oh, they can actually...
Wait. The captain...
They can shoot... Wait. The American one can shoot missiles and hit the torpedo.
But the Princeton's SM-6s in surface mode could reach about 240 nautical miles and swat them like flies.
No way.
At 09:29, the captain wanted to know the probable intent of the Chinese ship. The answer was obvious. At current speed and heading, she'd be within weapons release range in 14 minutes. The recommendation was to go to general quarters, but the captain's response was pure American confidence. Let's see how badly they want to embarrass themselves first. That's even if they could get there safely. The South China Sea was packed with merchant traffic. 46 commercial vessels within 50 miles,
bro.
all depending on the U.S. Navy's presence to guarantee safe passage. A Singapore flag container ship loaded with semiconductors. A South Korean LNG tanker worth $200 million. All would be at risk if Beijing succeeded in turning international waters into its personal swimming pool.
200
but
million?
That would require them to actually win a fight against the U.S. Navy, which hasn't happened since never. At 09:30, the Princeton's cooperative engagement capability automatically shared the threat data across every ship in the strike group. The Nimitz herself, 104,600 tons of floating American diplomacy carrying 90 of the world's most advanced aircraft,
Wait a minute.
adjusted her. The Nimitz herself, 104,600.
104,600 ton. How the hell do they even float? That is a genuine question. How the hell does something that weighs 104,000 ton? Someone explain that to me like I'm 4 years old. Please.
100 tons of floating American diplomacy, carrying 90 of the world's most advanced aircraft, adjusted her flight operations with the precision of a Swiss watch. The destroyers, Changhoon and
Damn.
Kidd, shifted positions to take station around the carrier that would turn any Chinese attack into a one-way trip to the bottom. At 0935, the tactical picture went from concerning to dangerous. The E-2D Hawkeye orbiting at 25,000 feet, providing a god's eye view of everything within 400 miles, detected multiple aircraft launching from the Chinese carrier Shandong. The radar signatures were
Shandong?
consistent with those of J-15 fighters,
They're on the
climbing
way.
hard and heading south, as if they actually stood a chance. The air controllers immediately noticed something hilarious. The J-15s were struggling to gain altitude, likely due to fuel limitations from the ski jump launch system the
No.
Chinese were so proud of. A minute later, the sonar operators added the final piece of China's coordination puzzle. They detected a possible submerged contact 80 nautical miles
Oh,
away.
shit.
An acoustic signature consistent with a Type 039 diesel-electric submarine. The funny part? The thing was making noise like a freight train. Any competent submarine crew would have been mortified. The Chinese weren't just being aggressive.
Oh,
they were
dear.
orchestrating a multi-domain intimidation campaign with equipment that belonged in a museum. Surface ships from the 1990s, carrier aircraft that couldn't carry a full weapons load, and submarines so loud they might as well be broadcasting their position on AM radio. It was textbook bullying, the kind that only works if your target is too weak or too scared to fight back. Unfortunately for Beijing, they'd just challenged the wrong Navy
Why?
in the wrong ocean. The U.S. Navy had been perfecting blue water dominance since 1914, and these Chinese forces were about to receive a free lesson in why the American Navy reigned supreme.
You idiots.
By 0937, the USS Nimitz flight deck erupted into controlled
Here we
chaos
go.
that only American carriers have truly mastered. FA-18E Super Hornets from BFA-14 Top Hatters rocketed off the catapults at 45-second intervals. A ballet of precision that
How long is that?
had been perfecting blue water
minute.
dominance since 1914.
I ca-
And these Chinese forces were about to receive a free lesson in why the American Navy reigned supreme. By
How short is this runway?
0937, the USS Nimitz flight deck erupted
Man, that
into
looks like
controlled
60
chaos
feet.
that only American carriers have
That is insane. Like it's flung along there and that's all they take. And that's
truly
crazy.
mastered. FA-18E Super Hornets from BFA-14 Top Hatters rocketed off the catapults at
Damn.
45-second intervals. A ballet of precision that Chinese carriers, dependent on inefficient ski jumps, could only dream of matching. Steam billowed from the catapult tracks as American naval aviation did what it
Look
does
at
best:
that.
project power.
Boom!
The first division of Super Hornets climbed through 15,000 feet.
Is this
Their
gonna be a fight?
APG-79 ASA radars already painting the incoming J-15s at maximum range. The technological mismatch was almost unfair. The APG-79's 1,100 transmit-receive modules could track dozens of targets simultaneously.
Yo, do you think it gets a bit awkward whenever they have to fly by each other, but they're not allowed to shoot? It's just like, you know, we could be shooting at each other, but we're not. Have a good day. All right? And then, like, 1 minute later, they get the call, attack. And they're like, fuck, I just wished him a good day. Now I gotta kill him.
While the J-15's mechanically scanned radar swept back and forth like a lighthouse, broadcasting its position to anyone listening. The J-15s were struggling for altitude, a painful reminder of the Shandong ski jump limitations. Without catapults, they launched with reduced fuel and weapons loads.
They got no
They were climbing
catapults?
hard to gain an energy advantage, but burning fuel at a faster rate. Meanwhile, the American fighters, launched at full combat weight, had fuel to spare and carried
Jesus.
hands rated E for everyone. However, the weapon and fuel loadout was just the advantage the Chinese could physically see. Every F-18 was connected via Link 16, sharing...
Do they land on those boats as well? They gotta land them. How the hell do they do that? That might be more impressive than taking off, in my opinion.
Data in real time. When one aircraft saw something, they all saw it.
Yep.
Chinese pilots, meanwhile, relied on voice commands and individual sensors, like fighting a network team while blindfolded. The technological gap wasn't measured in years, but decades. The E-18G Growlers entered the fight without
Cougar.
firing a shot. These electronic warfare variants carried ALQ-99 jamming pods that could fry enemy electronics from 100 miles away.
No way.
As they established their jamming orbits, Chinese communications began to fragment. On Chinese radar screens, ghost contacts multiplied. American fighters appeared and disappeared, multiplied and merged. Radar locks broke and reformed constantly. The J-15 pilots found themselves fighting phantoms while real threats maneuvered unseen.
So, like, in terms of pure quality, right? Because I'm just going to call a spade here. Whenever you think of electronics coming out of the China to come to be sold in, like, shops and shit, you think of, like, cheap-ass, you know, cheap shit. So, like, how does that equate to their Navy? Is it kind of the same thing? Like, not their Navy, sorry. They're, like, the Chinese Army, whatever they're called. Would their army also be, like, made of cheap shit? Or maybe do they keep all their money for their army? Or, like, how does that work in relation to the products they sell around the world? Is it all kind of the same? So I was kind of wondering, like, how much of a threat are actually China if they are just, like... Because if somebody watched this video and then somebody told you China's actually one of the most powerful, you'd be like, really? Really? Oh, really? You know?
And locked on to the USS Nimitz with fire control quality tracking. In naval warfare, this is one breath away from launching missiles. The electromagnetic searching 7 hours, the Zhanjiang crossed a line that would have triggered immediately, updated continuously, and soon it seemed like they might actually come in handy. At 0947 hours, the Zhanjiang crossed a line that would have triggered immediate retaliation from any other navy. Her Type 346A phased array radar stopped searching and locked on to the USS Nimitz with fire control quality tracking. In naval warfare, this is one breath away from launching missiles, the electromagnetic equivalent of pointing a loaded gun at someone. Inside Princeton CIC, the response was immediate but measured American discipline, drilled through countless exercises, held firm.
This is why I shouldn't be anywhere near the army, man. Because I know what's happened in the US ship. There's the person in charge has stayed composed, relaxed, and he's just sent out a few orders that will just kind of bring everyone onto the same page and just make sure that everyone's doing their job. If I was on that boat in control and someone told me, Adam, they're pointing a gun, I would be like, fucking sink him now.
SQQ-89 sonar suite had been tracked.
What's the need for these balaclavas, man? I feel like this is a bit overkill here, no?
Tracking him for the past hour. The ship had its acoustic signature catalog, its position fixed to within meters. If this went kinetic, he'd have about 12 seconds to contemplate his life choices before an ASROC turned his boat into fish food.
That's crazy that they can hit submarines underwater.
Become a textbook study on how not to conduct naval operations. Chinese forces had positioned themselves in a box, a carrier to the northwest, a destroyer to the west, and a submarine to the southwest. If shooting started, none of them would survive the first 5 minutes. And the Americans were about to show them exactly how that would go down.
All this happened in like half an hour.
At 14:30 hours, the USS Nimitz launched everything
later
that
in the
could
day
fly.
now.
48 aircraft roared off her deck in the largest single carrier display of air power in years. Super Hornets loaded with live weapons. EA-18G Growlers carrying electronic warfare packages that could black out a city. E-2D Hawkeyes commanding the electric high ground. The afternoon sky turned dark with American aircraft. The Growlers went to work first. Their ALQ-99 pods operating at full power turned Chinese radar screens into modern art.
This is a wild
False
video.
contacts appeared by the hundreds. Real aircraft vanished into electronic noise.
48
the Shandong's air defense
aircraft.
picture looked like someone had thrown paint at the screens. Chinese controllers couldn't distinguish real threats from ghosts.
They're shiting
Everything
themselves.
was a threat. Then came the submarine. A Virginia-class attack submarine that had been shadowing the Chinese formation for 8 days. Silent, invisible, patient. At 1547, she surfaced 6 nautical miles from the Shandong, close enough for Chinese lookouts to see her black hull with their Mark I eyeballs. The psychological impact was devastating. 8 days of undetected operations, their entire
Crazy.
anti-submarine screen, helicopters, sono buoys, and hull-mounted sonar had failed to detect the 7,900-ton American submarine. If this had been war, their carrier would already be toast. The sub's commanding officer ordered an emergency surface purely for effect. The submarine burst from the water like a breaching whale.
Yo, they're
water
so cool
cascading off
looking.
her hull in the afternoon sun.
If there's any vehicle that terrifies me, it's the submarine. That's just how sneaky it is, just coming out the ocean and just pretends to be a boat. You know? Like, it's just been down there the whole time. No one knew shit, and then all of a sudden it's up there just saying hello to everybody. Like, what's it doing down there? You know? What is it at down there, really? And then I watched a movie called Black Sea, and it terrified me even more. If you've seen that movie, you know why.
Photographers on the Chinese ships would have perfect shots of American dominance. After about 90 seconds, enough time to be seen, photographed, and reported, she slid back beneath the waves. The message was clear.
There she goes.
We own the undersea domain. Back in the air,
Nice.
American fighters demonstrated ACM, air combat maneuvering, at the expense of increasingly desperate Chinese fighters.
Yep.
The J-15s, already low on fuel from their ski-jump launches and hard climb to altitude, found themselves unable to match the Americans turn for turn. Each engagement ended the same way. American fighters in firing position, Chinese fighters defensive and burning precious fuel. One by one, the Chinese fighters peeled off, heading back to the Shandong with near-empty tanks. Their combat endurance had been exhausted in endless attempts to match American capabilities. They landed with emergency
Hey, look
fuel.
at that.
Some probably saw the bingo light they'd only seen in simulators before.
Okay, so I've seen this before. Like, see this elastic rope? This is what aids them to stop, right? How the hell?
Some probably
Okay, so is there like 4 of them or something? 1, 2, 3, 4. So you land down, and what does it click onto though?
probably saw
It's just clicked onto something here.
the bingo light they
How is that on there? I don't understand how this works. Is this white stick maybe like down, and then as it catches the rope, it comes up and tightens itself around the end of it? I'm gonna need to watch a video on how these land, man, because oh yeah, it's going down. I think. I'm sorry, guys. I need to know. I can't see it there though.
Some probably saw the bingo light they'd
It's
only
incredible.
seen in simulators before. By 1623, the Shandong's carrier strike group began its withdrawal. Official Chinese communications spoke of completing scheduled exercises. But everyone knew the truth. They'd come to demonstrate Chinese naval power, to intimidate lawful navigation,
And got
to
embarrassed.
claim waters that didn't belong to them. Instead, they'd received a lesson in why the South China Sea is America's 6th Great Lake. Bye for now.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, and I don't need to say much. If you ever think of fucking with the US, maybe just don't. That's amazing. I really want to see a video on how those planes land on those boats, on those ship carriers. So cool. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Appreciate it. If you got any questions or anything like that, stick them in the comments box down below. If you want me to react to anything, do the same thing. But most of all, have yourself a good weekend. Peace.